Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel UPSC Agriculture Optional Simplified. So in the previous video, as I already told you that I am going to discuss the syllabus coverage of paper 1 and paper 2 in the agriculture optional. So it is very important to understand the syllabus of any subject. It is the key. So if we understand the syllabus keywords well, then we can prepare well and get the good marks. So here in this video, I am going to help you uh, by telling the what kind of subjects the paper 1 will cover and paper 2 too, and what are the keywords in each and every subject and how to understand those keywords and what to read and everything that I'll teach you. I'll make a separate video on paper 2, so all this video deals with the paper 1. Let us see what kind of subjects that this paper 1 covers. The first one is ecology and environment. So it's agronomy, weed management, forestry, soil science, nutrient management, water conservation, agriculture economics, extension. So here are the total subjects which covers under the paper 1. Let us look at the each and every subject and its keywords now. The first subject is ecology and its environment. So here, first thing, why we are studying this environment section in the agriculture part? So this question came into your mind, right? So agriculture, whatever the crops that we grow is a part of environment only. And we know the term called ecology, which we see in the environment subject, which is an interaction between biotic and abiotic factors. So environment is a factor in this, whatever the croplands that we grow associate with the different physical environmental things like weather, climate, rainfall, soil characteristics, and it also associated with different pests, diseases, and water requirements. All these things are a part of environments. So that is the reason why we have this section, ecology and its relevance to man. So what is the relevance to man? And natural resources, what are the natural resources that are available to grow the field crops well, and their sustainable management and conservation, as government is initiating many policies to conserve this ecology and different environmental factors. So all this first line deals with the man, natural resources, and management and conservation. The second line is physical, social, environment as a factors of crop distribution and production. So the crop distributes at different places in different manners. So it's what are the physical environmental factors that is aiding in particular crops to grow in particular area, and what are the social environmental factors that is also aiding in this crop distribution, and what kind of production that we are getting from that. And next one is agroecology. So we all be knowing ecology means the interaction between living organisms with non-living organisms. So agroecology means it's a agriculture related ecology, and cropping patterns has indicators of environment. So we all be knowing what is cropping pattern. For example, if we take north area like Punjab, Jammu Kashmir, and Haryana, and this what wherever the Ganga river flows, we call this as a plain land, plain areas. So in these areas we can commonly find this pattern. Pattern means nothing but how many crops are grown in an land in a year. So they will grow rice at particular moment and then wheat in Rabi. So this is what the cropping pattern means. So this indicate different environment. Based on the environment, they will choose the crops that is suitable at that area. And next, environmental pollution. We all be knowing there were different types of pollution that takes place in the environmental, like soil pollution and air pollution. So all these have a direct or indirect impact on these crop fields, and associate hazards with the crops, with the animals, and with the humans is what we study here. Although we study how it is affecting the humans in the environmental section already, here we study how it is affecting the crops, animals particularly, right? And next, climate change. So climate change is the biggest issue, out of which we are changing the patterns and we are choosing the different crop plants, and productivity getting low out of this globalization, global warming, or else some other problems associated with this climate impacting directly to these crop selections. So what are the international convention that is taking place for this climate change, and what are the global initiatives, because this climate changes overall the world. So the climate change is everywhere, which is impacting from area to area. So it's not just one place. So that is the reason why a lot of international conventions and global initiatives are being taken place. And greenhouse effect, we all be knowing there was certain kind of gases that will be released from these greenhouse gases, and global warming, how that is affecting the crops is what we study here. And next, advanced tools for ecosystem analysis like remote sensing, geographic information system. So we should read. Normally we see the data from newspapers or some other documents. For example, the wheat crop is grown in around 250 million hectares, or in such way. As an example, I am taking this is not the accurate figure. So they will give this kind of figures like 100 million hectares, 200 million hectares. So how humans will measure this is the common question that we have. So human doesn't measure manually in the lower land. These remote sensing and geographic information systems are such kind of analyzing and tools help us to measure this land. So through this geographical information system, they measure the land in the whole India, how much land is covered with the maize crop. So based on that data, it will be produced to the government. So that government is providing us, and it has many benefits. Why they are doing this? It has many benefits. They will decide how much consumption that uh, the country is having, and what is the demand of this crop, and how much crop is sufficient for the next year. All these things are very important to know. So these tools are what it is helping. So this is what it is dealing from the ecology and environment section. And next, the next subject is agronomy. So basically agronomy is a subject which deals with growing of crops, growing of different crops. So like the climatic factors that affects seed seed rate and space, everything we study in this agronomy. So cropping patterns in different agroclimatic zones of the country. So we have around, for example, let us take the India map. So normally in India, we all be knowing our India is called as a subcontinent. So it has the characteristics of one continent having different climatic patterns. We have snow, we have desert, we have mountains, we have sea, everything we have. So the crops are decided based on the climatic conditions that is there. So for example, so the climatic conditions, this is an area which is completely covered with Himalayas. And here the snow covered we can see, and whatever the Himalayas that is covered in this northeastern area is with a thick forest but not with a snow, but still they are Himalayas. And these are the plain area wherever the Ganga river flows. So alluvial soil is very famous here. So out of the flowing of this Ganga river, alluvial soil forms and plain lands have formed here. And here if we take the Rajasthan area, so this is a desert area, and Gujarat hills, and Western Ghats, Eastern hills, and the central part, Deccan area. So the climatic conditions here is totally different from this area. See, in such way the climatic zones are divided. Based on that zones, the crops are decided. So here what we study is what are the crops grown in these kind of areas. We'll be taking each and every climatic region and what crops have been grown there and what are the patterns that they follow according to the seasons that change like winter, summer and everything. And next, impact of high yielding and short duration varieties in shifts in cropping patterns. So short duration varieties are very common. Normally before uh, we don't have this kind of technology like hybrid seeds and short duration varieties, out of which in a 1 year, so farmers usually grow one crop or most probably two crops because that will take a long time to yield. But out of this breeding, we developed the seeds which are short duration varieties. Within a very less time, we get the yield. So that means we can, in 1 year, we can go with three crops. So which will improve the farmer's income. So how will that affecting the cropping pattern and what is the impact of high yielding too? So how the high yielding varieties shifts in cropping pattern is also what we study. And next, concepts of various cropping and farming systems. So we have different cropping and farming systems that we follow in our India, like cropping systems and means nothing but the proportion of the crops that is there on a piece of land, or else one crop is grown later which crop is grown is what we study. And few times farmers usually grow one crop at one line and irregular intervals. They this is what we call it as a mixed farming. So two or three crops are grown in the same land area at one particular time. So there were different kind of farming and cropping systems are there that we discuss here. And next, organic agriculture, so which is very famous, and we may expect the direct questions every year from this section. Organic agriculture means we all be knowing without using any chemical fertilizers. If we produce some crops, those are nothing but the organic. And we also study the precision farming. This is also one type of farming which is aiding in farmers development and farm development too. And next thing is the most important section, package practices for production of. Here we particularly discuss the cereals, pulses, oilseeds, fibers, sugar crops, commercial crops and fodder crops, and remaining crops like vegetables, fruits, plantations, flowers are those things we study in the horticulture section. But in the agronomy section, only these type of seed crops is what we study. So particularly, these package practices mean from the time of sowing to the time of harvest. What is the procedure of growing a cereal? For example, rice if we take. What is the procedure? Sowing procedure, and which temperature is convenient to grow this rice crop, and what is the humidity that is required for this rice crop, and what is the space between two plants, and what are the fertilization recommendations like NPK ratio, like potassium, calcium and nitrogen ratio. And not just this thing, there were many things like varieties, high yielding varieties and critical stage for irrigation. Everything we study of this, all these things which are there on the slide. Like cereals are nothing but the rice, maize, and pulses, red gram, green gram are such kind of examples are there. And oil seeds we all be knowing, groundnut, sunflower, fiber crops and sugarcane, commercial crops we can see. And fodder crops is nothing but the grass related crops. So we all study these things in the agronomy section. The next subject that we deal is weed management. So we all be knowing what is meant by weed. This is the biggest enemy to the farmers. So weed is nothing but the unwanted plant. For example, if we take any farmland and we are growing one crop, So let us assume we are growing a maize crop. So what happens? So while we are growing maize crop, not only the maize that is growing, along with that, there were lot many weeds are growing in between, which is a serious issue to eradicate this thing. And what is the issue here? We provide a different inputs to this maize crop, like different fertilizers, water, and many things we provide. But what these weeds are doing, they are taking everything without giving or giving a very less amount to the main crop which we decide. So out of which the yield percentage is low, and now the farmer is getting a low yields out of this unwanted wheat plants. So this is the biggest issue. That is a real reason why we need to know what are weeds and what are the control measures that we should provide. So like weeds, what are the weeds? Their characteristics. So it has some type of characteristics like it produces a lot of seeds, and they can be in different forms like grasses and dicot plants, and different characteristics will be there. And dissemination, so how will that disperse? And association with various crop. Not every crop has the same kind of weeds. The weeds are different at different farmlands, and weeds are different in different crop plants too, crop farmlands too. So they will benefit from that croplands. Their multiplications, so how they are multiplicating them. And cultural means the traditional practices, biological using the living organisms, chemicals to control the weeds is what we study. Integrated weed management is what we study to eradicate the weeds. Here is what we study in the weed management section. The next subject is forest. So the forestry, by listening the name itself, we understand it is something related to the forest. Yes, the important features and scope of various type of forestry plantations. So what is the scope and importance of these forest plants, such as social forestry, agroforestry, which is a very important thing, and we may expect every year one question from this agroforestry thing, and natural forestry. Basically, we study different types of forest and what is the importance of that forest. And next, propagation of forest plants. There were different types of propagation through seeds, through vegetative measures. We adapt different things like grafting and many other methods that we study in the propagation section. And what are the products that we are getting from the forest, which is helping the farmers and tribal areas too. And next, agroforestry and value addition. Agroforestry is nothing but growing crops along with the forestry crops. Sorry, forestry trees. For example, let us take this is a farmland. So they are raising some kind of trees, which is for timber, for suppose. So in between there is a space. So they utilize this space for growing the crops, which they will get benefits from both these things. Few times they will also raise hens for poultry, and they will raise some fishes in between the coconut trees or something like that. And next, conservation of forest flora and fauna. This is what we already studying in the environment section of GS3, but here also we study what is a common flora, nothing but the plants and animals, how we can conserve them is what we study in the forestry section. And next, soil science. So the soil science, the meaning of this agriculture itself, the cultivation of soil, the cultivation of soil. So this plays a key role in growth of a plant. Everything that we give to the soil itself, and everything that takes off by the soil only. So we study here basically, I have divided this soil science section into three parts. One is total soil thing, soil related. One is nutrient management, and one is irrigation schedules. This is what we are going to see here. So the first thing is soil related. So what are its physical characteristics that is appearing to us, like the structure and texture, air, temperature, everything we study in the physical characteristics, and chemical properties of soil, like different salts and what are the materials, nutrient materials that is there in the soil, and biological properties. What are the biological properties that is there in the soil, like there is a nitrogen fixation bacteria and earthworms. There are different things will be there in the form of biological properties that we study, and the questions are very direct from this thing. They will ask in such way, what are the physical characteristics or physical properties of soil, and they ask as a sectional thing, like what is mean by the texture of soil, and they will ask the direct question, what are the chemical properties of soil. They will ask the direct question as biological properties of soil. So if we have a good notes and a proper revision, then it is not a big task to think out of the box. So you just have the answer in your mind. So whatever you prepare, it is easier to depict on the examination. That is the biggest advantage that we have with this optional. And the processes and factors of soil formation. So we somehow have this knowledge from the geography we have studied. The thing before the soil, where the soil forms first, there is a rocks. By a weathering, the soil fine texture comes. We call that texture called soil. And this soil is aiding in plant growth, making the plant easier to absorb the nutrients and withstand with the soil. So we study the process and factors of soil formation here. And soils of India. If we take the India, so there were different types of soils we can observe. So here the red soil is very dominant. Here alluvial soil is very dominant. Here arid soil, and different areas are having different soil types. Based on the soil types, farmers have chosen these crops which is suitable at that land location. And mineral and organic constituents of soil. So soil is what it is having a lot of things, lot of nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and micronutrients like zinc, copper, and many things. So we study what are the minerals and organic constituents like organic matter is what we study, and their role in maintaining the soil productivity. So that will decide only if the soil contains a proper nutrients which are required for the plants, then we can grow the crops there. We can decide this land area of soil having a good productivity. If it is not having, we provide to that soil externally through this biologically or chemically. And next thing is nutrient management. So for growing one plant, nutrients are very essential. Same like humans need food to grow and to stay healthy, plants also need the minerals. And we take from food, but plant has to prepare its own food, and this soil constituent, mineral constituents that is there in the soil, the roots absorbs from the soil. Only the good conditions like a proper aeration, proper temperature, and proper inclusion. If such kind of things are favorable, then only the roots will uptake the nutrients. And what if the soil is not containing the proper nutrients? We can directly see the symptoms of these leaves or stems or flowers or fruits. So essential, we study essential plant nutrients. Same like we need some vitamins, carbohydrates, proteins. Even plants do need both macro and micronutrients, and we particularly see what are those and other beneficial elements in soils and plants. And next thing is principles of soil fertility. So what this soil fertility mean, and soil testing and fertilizer recommendations. So how will we decide whether a soil is productive or fertile or not based on the soil testing? So we send our soil sample to these labs, and that will decide, and that will give the information how much content of minerals that is required for plants will be known, based on which they will give this recommendation, fertilizer recommendation. So if they say nitrogen or phosphorus content is less, we provide that phosphorus content based on their recommendations to the soil, so that it is easier for us to get the high yields from the land. And next, integrated nutrient management. So approaching different methods for this nutrient management. Next, biofertilizers. Bio means we all be knowing living. So living fertilizers. That means the good bacteria which aids in fertilizer way is what we study here. And losses of nitrogen in the soil is a common feature. Like nitrogen is having the highest percentage in our atmosphere, but still plant can't take this nitrogen directly from the air. So the soil has to fix this atmospheric nitrogen, and different bacteria is doing it work to transform that atmospheric nitrogen and transforms and translocates into the plant. So this is a procedure, but few times from the soil we may lose the nitrogen. And nitrogen use efficiency in submerged rice soils. Submerged means the land which is completely submerged, covered with the water. So we normally see this kind of condition for rice crops. So at that time, how the plant is taking this nitrogen, and nitrogen fixation in soils, how the fixation takes place. As I told you, right? So it can't fix the nitrogen directly into the plant. So there is a mechanism to fix the nitrogen in the soils first before taking by the plant. Next, efficient phosphorus and potassium use. These three are macronutrients actually. We study NPK ratio in every crop, because these three nutrients are elements are very much required for every plant to grow. So there are certain kind of recommendations which are different for different crops here. So we have to know what is the NPK ratio. So we study here phosphorus and potassium use. And problematic soils. What is meant by problematic soils? The soils which are having less productivity. Why? Due to this salts accumulation. The salts accumulation is a common thing which is stopping the plant to grow properly, because if we provide some kind of water which is having the high salts, so that is fixed in the soil and it is taking the soil to the plant. So this salts is what it disturbs the absorption and makes the plant stunt. So this is a problematic soil, and how we can reclaim that, and I mean how we can eradicate that is what we study. Like we have different acidic soils, alkaline soils, sodic soils. So these are the problematic things, and how we can reclaim them is what we study. And next, soil factors affecting greenhouse gas emissions. How this soil is affecting or producing these greenhouse gases is what we study here in the nutrient management. And the next subject is water conservation, which is third part of soil science. So soil conservation, integrated watershed management is what we study here. Here, why we need to conserve the soil and how water is playing the key role here. Out of this water, the erosion takes place, and we need to conserve the soil through that water erosion. And what are the different approaches that we can bring out to this watershed management? And what is soil erosion? Erosion is nothing but losing the soil on the top layer. Top layer is what which is having a lot of nutrients, but out of this air or wind action, these nutrients are fades away from that soil, which makes this total land less productive. So how we can manage such kind of situations is what we study in this section. Dry land agriculture means the land which is completely depends water percentage is very less there. So there we call it as dry land agriculture. And what are the problems associated with that, and what are the uh, conclusions that we can make as a solutions for that problems. And technology for stabilizing agriculture production in rain-fed areas. Rain-fed areas means nothing but the areas which completely depends on the rain, where the irrigation facilities are very less, so they completely depends on the rain. And we all be knowing the rainfall patterns changes, out of which the crop yield decreases. Sometimes too much rain causes the degradation of the crops. So these are the common problems that we see. So how we can use the technology for stabilizing, particularly in the rain-fed areas, is what we study here. And water use efficiency in relation to crop production. So how the water use efficiency taking place, and criteria for scheduling irrigation. There is a term called critical stage. Critical stage. For example, if we take uh, the crops like rice, so here the critical stage for this rice is panicule formations. Or in the same way, every crop has one critical stage. Critical stage in the sense, at that stage water is very much necessary. So how we need to schedule the irrigation based on the crop requirements is what we study here. And ways and means of reducing runoff, losses of irrigation water is also what we study. And rainwater harvesting. Water is the biggest issue in the agriculture, and we completely depends on this groundwater more, which is making the groundwater less. And a lot of areas still faces the issue of this water. So there is a need of harvesting this rainwater whenever we get, so that we can utilize them well and we can grow our crops well, because agriculture is what it is using the most percentage of fresh water. So there is a need of harvesting now. And drip and sprinkler irrigation, these are the methods of irrigation, and what are the merits and demerits is what we study here. And drainage of waterlogged soils, so few times the soil like black soil. So the characteristics of this black soil, it doesn't percolates the water deeply. It just stops the water, and water logging takes place here, out of which the plant growth stops. So how we can manage the drainage of this such kind of soils. And quality of irrigation water is what we study, because if the quality of water is not good, that will totally affect the soil as well as plant growth. So we need to manage that. And the effect of industrial effluents on soil and water pollution, and this is the biggest issue too. So if these are causing a very much serious issues on these plants, soil and water. And irrigation projects in India, so particularly for this agriculture purpose, there were different projects we can see. For example, Nagarjuna Sagar Dam in Telangana, which is providing the irrigation for a lot of farmlands around it. And in the same way, we can find out a lot of dams projects in India, is what we study here in the section. And next thing is economics. So until now, we study how we produce plant from the farmland and what are the problems associated. So this economics is what the section after we get the yield. So where does this yield goes and what is the procedure? So it is not only important how to grow the plants on the farmland, it is also important how we can market and how we can utilize different technologies to sell our farm produce. So here we study farm management. So how we can manage and what is the scope and what is the importance and characteristics, farm planning, all these things we study, and optimum resource use and budgeting. So it's something like gaining a lot of projects by utilizing everything carefully is what we study. And economics of different types of farming system. We have different types of farming system and what is the role of this economy, and marketing management. So after we get it, we need to market that. So what are the strategies for development and market intelligence? So totally about the market we study here. And price fluctuations are very common, we see in newspapers every day of the produce, and what is their cost. This cost keeps changing. And what are the role of cooperatives in agriculture economy, who are middlemen, and types and systems of farming and factors affecting them is also some type of farming system. And next one is agriculture price policy. So the policies which are there, and crop insurance, which is helping for the farmers. So everything related to money. Economy is what? It's related to the money only. But all the money related things here we study as a economics, as a agriculture economics. And the next subject is extension. To produce a good crop, one should be skilled, one farmer should be skilled. And this extension programs is what it is helping the farmers to adapt new technologies. Like we normally see the spraying of fertilizers through the drones. So this is a common technology nowadays, and government is taking the initiative to increase this. And in such way there are different technologies will be there. So this extension is what that is teaching the farmers to adapt these things. Like extension, it importance, what is the importance and its role, methods of evaluation of extension programs, and what are the socio-economic survey and status of big, small and marginal farmers and landless agriculture laborers. So out of this is a issue, so how we can manage that is what we study. And training programs for extension workers is what we study. And role of Krishi Vignana Kendra. So everyone somehow have an idea what this KVK mean, right? Krishi Vignana Kendra. So these are the Kendras which are providing the trainings to the farmers to adapt new technologies, and they provide different extension works and training in producing a new crops like mulberry or something like that, or silkworm. Many things will be there like fisheries, and in dissemination of agriculture technologies. And how our NGOs and self-help groups are helping in this rural development. So there is a common feature that I have observed from the past 10 years. If we observe the past 10 years PYQs, this is a common section from NGO SHD. There is one question definitely that is being asked in the examination. And if we observe, the major percentage of questions are being asked from this soil science only, soil science, nutrient management and water conservation. After this, the major questions are being asked from this agronomy section as well as extension section. So after that, from weed, forestry and agriculture ecology, we can expect one or two questions from that. But the major questions that we can see is from soil. This is the most important section that we need to follow, and then agronomy, and then this extension. So these are the major subjects that we need to follow and concentrate more upon. Almost every subject is important. We can't guess. In few years, the questions are not more from these sections, but more from other section other than these three. So we can't guess. So it is unpredictable. So we have to prepare everything well. And in next video, I'm going to teach you what are the syllabus for this paper 2 and everything. Until then, thank you very much for your patience. and we'll meet in the next video. Thank you so much.